Hello, hello, Hypno Junkies. Welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. Well, last episode was a doozy. We're getting right into the plot twists and the what the hell is going ons. Turns out we might be Shogun. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. We need an explanation for how messages at least are going back in time or how they're originating from that computer. If it is us. And we're starting to get introduced to this whole idea of people having little powers and things. We've been explicitly asked by Yua, now that the mask has dropped and she's basically not pretending anymore, if we're precognitive, which is a weird thing to ask out of the blue, but it does make me wonder if certain people can do certain things. I kind of speculated that Yua might have some interesting powers of suggestion because her tone, the way she repeats certain things, was in a very suggestive manner. In a traditionally suggestive way, but she also did it for a lot of things that she repeated herself for a lot of different topics. So I'm not sure if that's something that's kind of ties into something she can do, or if it's just a verbal tick by her. And if the latter, then okay, whatever. We also had an interesting comment on the first video, because as I'm recording this, 4 videos have been done, but only 1 video has been published. MeltyChan7549 put out a few facts in a comment on the first video, most of which was just trivia, little things about, how stuff ties together in more specific ways that aren't spoilers. But the whole idea of the so-called delusion trigger, I'm not too sure still, and I'm not asking for clarification, I don't want to be spoiled, but I'm not too sure how that entirely works still. It sounds like if you pick green or red, you're basically speculating as to whether it's a delusion or not. But I guess you can also do what I've been doing and just coast through the delusions and be like, I don't want to have a choice, I'm just going to go, which I assume is going to take me to some sort of very, very neutral ending, which is fine. I expect to replay this to get all the endings anyway. So I don't know if the delusion trigger will ever be explained in-game. It really ought to be, considering it seems like a core gameplay mechanic. And by core, I mean literally the only one. But if it doesn't, then I guess we'll just see where doing nothing takes us. And when we're finished doing that, we'll just have to backtrack and play all red or all green, since that's apparently how the achievements work. In any case, enough babbling. We are going to go... we ended on something of a cliffhanger, learning that Shogun might be us. I'm still not entirely sold on that, but it certainly looks like a distinct possibility. Let's find out. Okay, we're backtracking a couple of dialogues here. Basically cutting off from our conversation with Yua. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to hear anything. Time is not a constant. There are contradictions in my memories. Again, this is tied to these delusions. There are errors in my point of view. The Earth isn't spinning. No, I'm pretty sure that one's true. This is just another game. By true, I mean yes, it is spinning. Groucho Soft. Mine doors. I stuffed my mouth with some fish sausage as I turned on my PC. Did you get that fish sausage from McDonald's? I'm not me. Before long, my monitor shone brightly with my Seratan wallpaper. This world. I went straight to ESO and opened it with an ounce of hesitation. Isn't the one I belong to. Yeah, real life is too weird right now. Let me retreat into my escapism. I just got an achievement. Oh, lovely. I ended the last episode 2 seconds before Chapter 2. Vroom vroom, quick get on if you're going on the field trip. All aboard. Are you drawing the field trip? It looks like he's got a bus drawing there. Lying face down on the floor, Nishiju Takumi. Nishiju Takumi, it's episode 5. You think I get used to these names. Takumi held a colored pencil in his hand. The one he was currently using was yellow, having switched from a red one only a few minutes ago. Thanks for the update. He joyously ran his pencil across the spread-out sketchbook, which he was nearly lying on top of. Takumi loved drawing pictures. He would always doodle on the edges of his notes during every lesson at school. The morning news had been left running in the background, but since news and the like was boring to a fourth grader like Takumi, he did not pay it any mind. Vroom vroom! Candy! Get your candy here! Get in the van, we have candy, only 300 yen. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the driver. All ashore that's going ashore! Wait, what? We're heading out, vroom! I'm not sure buses do that. As he imagined the scene in his head, he made it actually happen in the picture. Times where he would get too excited and accidentally draw oh, that's not good. Drawing on the tatami beneath him were not exactly infrequent. I don't think Mom appreciates that. Nanami, who would always read manga beside him, would scold him each time he did it. She had some nerve, considering she was the little sister, usually saying things along the lines of, "Oh, come on, don't get the floor all dirty. It's tatami, don't get the floor all dirty." Even so, Takumi never became any less immersed in his art. However, when he got to the point of drawing the people in the window, his hand suddenly stopped. Then, he ripped up the sketchbook and threw it away. On the previous day, on the day where the autumn trip had only been one more day away, Takumi had suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go. Oh, that's rough. Even though it had been something that he had been looking forward to for a very long time. So much so that he had been in a constant state of excitement for the entire day, waiting for the next day to arrive as soon as possible. That cruel declaration from his parents was something Takumi absolutely could not accept. He kicked and screamed, saying he would definitely go no matter what. But it was no use. His parents would not listen no matter what he said, choosing only to repeat the same words again and again. "You just can't. We're doing this for you, Takumi." Really? Takumi sank into his bed and trembled with so much frustration. He was very close to ripping his futon to shreds. He resented his parents from the bottom of his heart. For Takumi, that field trip had been a big, big event that could not have come soon enough. Everyone else in his class could go, but he alone was not allowed to. From his perspective, that was beyond unreasonable. Takumi was in a lonely world. Everyone else was in a super fun world. To him, it felt like he alone had been completely cut off from it. Because he had. He could not forgive the teacher, his classmates, anyone. They had all left him behind. And he especially could not forgive his parents for their sudden unfair decision. Those feelings transformed into pure hatred toward his parents and toward all of his classmates. Takumi bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He muttered curses at them over and over. "You're getting blood on the tatami. I don't think anybody should be allowed to go." The following morning arrived. The phone had been ringing over and over again since dawn. Each time his mother would pick up the phone, she seemed to be very shaken while talking. Takumi could not even get a wink of sleep. Was there an accident? And they had a precognition about it? The clock passed 9 a.m. In her usual well-behaved manner, Nanami was sitting on a floor cushion reading manga. She had told Takumi the day before, "I'm going to take a break from school to keep you company, Kay?" As if she thought it was the obvious thing for her to do. Their father had already gone to work, so he was not around. Their mother was very busy with the phone calls and had yet to prepare breakfast. There was no need for him to go to school that day. Nobody was there. Sullen as he was, Takumi opened his sketchbook and began drawing to distract himself. His feelings of rage refused to subside, so he tore up the sketchbook in frustration. As he did that, however... Huh? Hey, that bus! Nanami sounded puzzled. Takumi had thought she was talking about his picture, but her gaze was actually aimed at the TV. "Hey, Mommy! Oka-san!" Nanami called out loudly to her mother, who was still busy with the phone calls. Now listening, Takumi followed his sister's gaze and stared vacantly at the TV screen. Accident? The screen displayed a scene of a collapsed elevated highway. A section that was only about 50 meters long had fallen. Regrettably, a bus driving along there at the time had been caught up in the collapse, toppling onto its side beneath the overpass. It was the very same bus that Takumi should have been on. The bus his classmates were riding on. From just a single glance, Takumi could imagine exactly what had happened. His classmates were on the screen. One child was sobbing, another had blood all across their forehead, and another was lying atop a stretcher being carried onto an ambulance. The reporter was announcing the state of the accident with a grave look on their face, but Takumi did not really understand what they were talking about. "Taka-chan, it's awful!" His mother was standing at the entrance to the room holding a cordless phone. Her face was pale. "The bus for the field trip was in an accident on the highway." "We see that. It's on TV right now." "And Mr. Saito died." For some reason, Takumi was already sure of this. Everything happening on the TV was eerily similar to what he had pictured in his head the night before, when he had been overwhelmed by frustration and hatred. There was only one feeling that occupied the depths of his mind, a particular conviction, one where he was sure that he had precognitive abilities. Well. Long ago, a show on TV that examined people who claimed to have ESP had been etched into Takumi's mind. A person with precognitive abilities had appeared on the show, shocking the world by demonstrating frightening ESP in the experiment. The experiment verified whether or not the psychic could guess which of 12 items were placed in which numbered box. They did this by placing the subject in a different room, then proceeding to have them predict which cards with the item name on them belonged to which box. Afterwards, staff members in the other room would place the actual items into boxes, then verify how many the psychic foretold. The person on the show received an incredible 90% correct, causing an uproar among the entertainers. As this happened, Takumi tested if he could predict things the same way the psychic on TV did, only to get every single one correct. Of course, he didn't tell anyone else about this. So as he gazed up at the TV, he believed that the accident was yet another instance of his precognitive predictions being exactly right. "Well, I hope you aren't mad at your parents anymore." "It sounds like over half the class is injured." "Well, they're lucky if they're just injured. I expected them all to be dead." "Oh, how awful." His mother tried hugging him as he lay down, but Takumi avoided her grasp and crawled into the corner of the room. "But I'm so relieved." Yeah. Her eyes swam about as she whispered in a hollow voice. "I'm so relieved that I made you stay home, Taku-chan." Takumi felt sick. They were useless, he thought to himself. His abilities had not made a single difference. Just thinking about it made his heart turn to ice in an instant. After that, Takumi stopped speaking to others for a while. He quite literally went mute. He did not say a single word to another soul. His parents worried about him, and their already overprotective habits escalated even further. Finding them to be acting more and more ridiculous, Takumi thus decided to play the role of a mute boy. He thought of it as revenge against them. Due to his complete lack of talking, his mother took him to be seen in the psychiatric ward of the general hospital, and there he was diagnosed with PTSD. Since Takumi did not actually have PTSD or anything of the sort, he never once took his medicine, he merely pretended to. His parents never realized he was acting, and in the end, he didn't even feel a hint of pity as they worried themselves sick over him. I mean, what would have been better if they just let you get in a bus accident? Come on. Everything felt like a lie. The world was filled with falsities. It was overflowing with malice. It was out to get me. Please log into the chat room you always use and take a look. Then you'll understand that what I'm saying is true. And everything I said, it was all genuine. I hope you could at least believe me about that. Okay, maybe she's not a bad person. She was certainly acting, but how's this going to go? What are we going to learn this episode? After bombarding me with her nonsensical theories, Yua had said that one last thing before she'd left. There was no way I could believe her. How the hell was I supposed to believe someone that had been lying to me this entire time? Well, if she's telling you that you can do the thing that you know that you can do, then she must have at least some intuition. or good information, or maybe you should at least try to back it up. I refused to believe that everything there was me, like you had said. Everything she'd said about me being Shogun was a total joke. I wanted to believe that. But when I checked the timestamps in the chat log, there was no mistaking that conversation wasn't matching up. Well, then how did it happen at the same time on your end? Have I been sleepwalking? Problem was, during the time Shogun appeared to be posting in chat, I hadn't been sleeping at all. If I recalled correctly, I had indeed been at Cafe at that time. But I hadn't slept, so I couldn't have been sleepwalking. Maybe you fell asleep at your desk. In that case, I wonder why I didn't have any memories of posting as Shogun. Maybe my body had been being controlled by someone else, which would mean... No, that's ridiculous. I felt that the best way to calm myself down was to escape from reality into the fictional world of ESO. I feel like this is your solution for most of your problems. In ESO, everything was fake, a lie. At the end of the day, its world was just part of a video game. But in Baselard, I could become the godlike existence known as Neidhart. A fabrication like that, a lie like that, was something I'd readily accept. I wanted to stay there. This guy would be the first one to volunteer to be plugged into the Matrix. Nobody would mind if I did, would they? Or maybe the world of ESO was actually the real world and my own reality was the fake one. Just a game. In that case, Nishiju Takumi would be a fictional character and Neidhart would be my true form. Similar themes to what we explored in AI the Somnium Files 2 there. Hey, Neidhart. I called out to the paladin standing inside the monitor. Was I controlling you or were you controlling me? Which was it? Could you be real and I am your avatar? What if the world I was in was just a game in and of itself? If that were true, that would solve every mystery I was struggling with. What if, just like how I was staring at Neidhart within my monitor, what if someone was staring at me in the exact same way? Oh, whose eyes are those eyes? Somebody's playing the shittiest MMO ever, and you're the main character? Whose eyes are those eyes? Yep, called that. That would make them the player controlling me. Ooh, it's me, guys. It's my eyes. If I did have someone controlling me, would I kill them to do less of a shit job? Hey, I literally can only click my mouse, all right? That's all I got here. Though I guess an avatar couldn't really complain. Yeah, don't you dare. It's your fault for being boring. Come on, I'm trying to make money off my YouTube channel here. Step it up. It would also explain how Shogun and I could be the same person, validating that theory. Come to think of it, it was kind of like what Liselote was. Neidhart and Liselote couldn't possibly exist in Baselard at the same time. I was the only one playing as them, after all. Hey, I can log on to both my alt accounts at the same time. It's doable. Maybe Shogun and Nishiju Takumi were similar and couldn't exist in the world at the same time. It was also possible that it was a bug. Speaking of bugs, encountering that bizarre girl in a murder case, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that had happened, could have been bugs too. Could you not? The image Shogun had sent to me flashed through my mind. I gripped my head with my hands and frantically shook it away. You mean the image you sent yourself? I wanted to run away from everything. If maybe, just maybe, there was a player controlling me, please reset me already. Dude, I'm like 20 minutes into this recording, okay? I'll reset you in 40 when I've got a full episode. Just remake my character and start from scratch, please. God, I wish I could. Like I want to play Akabe 2.0. I guess Akabe is you 2.0 since this game came before Steins Gate. Oh, this is an interesting shot. Oh, are we back at the hospital? The waiting room of the university hospital was filled to the brim with middle-aged people waiting to be examined. The view hadn't changed from a few years prior, and almost made me feel as if time itself had stopped there. Moreover, everyone there looked miserable, and the scent of disinfectant pervaded the stagnant air. It was the kind of place that sucked all the life out of you and made you wish for the sweet embrace of death in 5 minutes tops. I didn't like hospitals. You don't say. The way the lobbies had countless people, yet the corridors beyond felt completely devoid of them, had always freaked me out ever since I was a little kid. It almost felt like the corridors themselves absorbed and stewed in the stench of death. I always felt like that was what a hospital truly represented, beyond its outer facade. I even thought that some horrifying creature was lying in wait deep within the corridors. That was why I didn't really want to go there, but there was something I had to make sure of no matter what, so I found myself reluctantly waiting my turn in line for an examination. Even when I tried to fully immerse myself in ESO, the bombshell that you had dropped on me continued to swirl around and around inside my head, and I hadn't been able to concentrate for even a second. As a result, my mind had been torturing me with all the various possibilities all the way until morning. What did I say about this guy doing negative self-hypnosis all the time? This is what you get for being a shut-in. And I'd become genuinely scared that something was wrong with me. That was why I went to the hospital, to get an official stamp of approval from a medical professional that said, Nishijo Takumi is completely normal. Well, they're the ones that said you had PTSD when you were acting, so I'm not sure I trust these guys' judgment. I wanted to prove that it wasn't me who was abnormal, but Yua. No, she's pretty abnormal too. I was used to coming to the hospital psych ward. And yet, when the grill at the reception asked, is this your first time? I nodded without thinking. The grill at the reception. George Foreman is the receptionist. Ever since that bus accident, my mother had regularly taken me here for checkups. During middle school, my physician said that I'd completely recovered, and I stopped going after that. This was my first time coming back in about 4.5 years. Oh, hey! More delusion. See, so this is, I guess, when I'm supposed to decide whether something is a delusion or not a delusion. I'm just going to keep going with the flow for now. And I guess one day we'll come back and go all green or all red and see what happens. My first physician had been some senile professor who was supposed to have some authority in the field. But I'd only seen him a few times, and after that someone else had taken over, a student of his or something. Although, despite calling himself the other guy's student, he hadn't been particularly young. To be honest, he looked pretty old. The night before, I was reminded of something that Dr. Takashina had said. This hospital isn't just for physical injuries, but also for mental ones. Well, yeah. I hated hospitals, but that doctor had been very nice. He'd left a good impression on me, and I thought he was a good person. Well, even then, I'd still thoroughly fooled all the adults to the very end. That is, except Dr. Takashina. He'd seen through it all, and he was the only one that declared me completely recovered. If I can get him to examine me, because you actually trust his judgment, fair enough. I wondered what he'd say if he learned that I'd become an otaku freak. Nah, there's no way he'd remember me after all this time. 4 years? I remember some of my clients after 4 years. So I guess the question would be, was that memory a delusion? In any case, I had to wait 3 hours before my name was finally called. Damn! George Foreman, get off your break. It was a different examination room than the one from 4 years ago, but when I stepped inside, I was welcomed with a face I remembered clearly. The doctor was exactly what you'd think of when you imagine a kind old man. His face definitely looked older than most, yet also softer at the same time, and his demeanor only served to emphasize those qualities. He hadn't changed a bit since I'd last seen him 4 years prior. Does this guy get a Sprite? It almost made me wonder if he was physically incapable of getting older, though I'd never known his actual age in the first place. The desire for me to latch onto him and never let go became stronger and stronger. Settle down. I could rely on him. He could save me. I felt incredibly happy to see him again. But the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "How can I help you today?" So he does get a Sprite. His voice was indeed gentle and filled with a kindness to calm the heart of others. However, it didn't carry the same familiarity that it had back when I'd been visiting the hospital regularly. So he doesn't remember you? It felt like he was only interacting with me on a purely professional level. Don't you pull people's files? So I couldn't help but tell him my name.
西条です。これはご丁寧に。
Ah, yes, introductions are probably in order. My name is Dr. Takashina. It's a pleasure to meet you. He bowed his head cheerfully. I was lost for words. It's a pleasure to meet you. How dare he? That was what he'd just said, and he'd completely forgotten me. I shouldn't be surprised. It's been 4 years after all. But I'd truly believe that Dr. Takashina, of all people, would remember me. Maybe that's arrogant, but I hope for it all the same. So my heart was overwhelmed with loneliness and emptiness when those expectations were shattered to pieces. It felt like my very existence was being denied. Dr. Takashina started talking to me while making eye contact, but I averted my eyes.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと書いてあるが。
Boy, you just got right in our face. It's written here that you wanted to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking,
何
yes?
かあったのかな
Should I take that to mean something happened during your normal sleeping hours? Right, I'd written that on the questionnaire, but it was all meaningless now. He didn't remember me at all.
別にいいじゃん。
Advice from Sarah. Who cares if he doesn't remember?
覚えてようが覚えてなかろうが
Whether he remembers you or not has nothing to do with anything, does it? Don't you dare go forgetting your mission. Trust nobody. Oh, right. I didn't come here to meet Dr. Takashina. I'd come here to prove that I was a completely healthy and sane human being. That's what my plastic figurine told me. The voices in my head say I'm perfectly all right. Our reunion was merely a bonus. Who gives a shit if he'd forgotten me? If Saratad hadn't stepped in and given me that advice, I would have come dangerously close to losing sight of myself. Phew! I'm definitely sane. Is unconsciously doing stuff like going outside and typing sentences on my PC without remembering any of it, can that kind of thing happen? Oh? It can. Someone I know pointed it out to me and I've been so confused. Do you think there's a possibility that this person is merely playing a prank on you? Seems unlikely if we can verify timestamps. Yua's eyes had been serious and hadn't looked at all like she was messing with me. At the very least, I had no doubt that Yua believed what she said. I'm not sure. I see. Also, what kind of relationship do you have with this person? A romantic one? You think my girlfriend's gaslighting me? Where the hell did that come from? What did that have to do with anything? Was I missing something here? Well, that might not have been a good way of putting it. I'll rephrase. Did this person you know actually witness you walking around while unconscious? Oh, so that's what he meant. I shook my head. So that means there's no evidence of it. I mean, there's a little bit. I once again shook my head. They acted like a detective, confronting me with evidence and stuff, so there is evidence. I see. While we're on the topic, have you ever shown any signs of sleepwalking before now? How would he know he's asleep? Have you ever experienced waking up in the morning only to find yourself in a different location than you had gone to sleep in? That's probably a no. So that would mean that the event this person told you about is the first time you believe you've experienced it, correct? After nodding weakly, I steeled myself and spoke. I haven't slept. Is that scaring you? If so, I assure you it isn't anything serious. You haven't slept, what, in how long? No, Are you going to give me a big time frame here? We don't know this guy goes to bed. I mean, his bed is covered in eroge. Does he not sleep? Because that would be news. That's not what I meant, but I couldn't figure out how to explain it. It was too late to say it out loud anymore. I was too flustered. Does he literally not sleep? Because if that's the case, holy damn. No wonder his MMO character is a god. Although, after scribbling something on a medical form, Dr. Takashina swiveled away from me in his chair and leaned forward toward the back of the examination room. Hazuki-kun, a moment, please.
Hi.
I was going to say, is that a nurse or a secretary? Of course it's not the secretary, that's George Foreman. Of course, doctor. The young nurse rushed over to him, and Dr. Takashina showed her the form. As he did so, he whispered for her to do something, and she quickly withdrew to the back of the room. What had that been about? The doctor turned back toward my puzzled self. Then in a gentle voice, he began to explain to me how sleepwalking worked. I feel like we're a little bit on a tangent here. I don't think sleepwalking is the answer, but we'll see what this leads to. When a person falls asleep, they first begin non-REM sleep before eventually progressing to REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is a deeper sleep where the brain hibernates and brain activity ceases. Meanwhile, REM sleep is a kind of sleep where the body is resting, but the brain is active in a state that's fairly close to being awake. I know about this stuff. Sleepwalking is believed to more easily occur during non-REM sleep. With the brain not performing its usual activities, it's difficult for it to formulate normal responses. It can still respond accurately to a certain degree, however, even allowing actions such as climbing up and down a staircase without a single misstep. One cause of it is when experiencing severe mental stress. It can easily occur then. It's a common symptom in children, but it also often occurs in adults. That should explain it, yes? That's what I meant by it being nothing serious. Okay. But I hadn't been sleeping. Even though I hadn't been sleeping, I'd still done things I didn't remember. The times Shogun had been posting from room 37 to the chat room should have been when I was busy playing ESO. Again, I don't know for a fact it's this guy. Maybe someone could have been using his computer as a zombie while he's there and doing these things remotely. That doesn't explain how the messages are going back in time, but it doesn't mean that we're doing it. Could sleepwalking really be possible there? I wanted to ask him that, but he was already moving to a different topic. There are many ways to check whether or not you've been sleepwalking. As for the most quick and easy way, well, we'd have you lie down on this bed right here. Ha ha ha. However, there may be certain conditions that need to be met in order for it to occur. For example, it might not happen if you aren't lying in your own bed. Yeah, there can be triggers for certain things. I once had a woman come to me for quitting smoking, and she had no problem being a non-smoker on vacation. She could leave for 2 weeks or travel or whatever, and she just wouldn't care at all. But as soon as she got home, she had to light up, and it was only in one room of her house. She only ever smoked in one room of her house, and when she wasn't in that room or when she was away from her house, she just didn't even care. Didn't even come to mind. Triggers are weird that way. While you may be walking around in an unconscious state, you could be walking around aimlessly. Or you could be being driven by something compulsive, leading you to walk around with a series of goals. Moreover, it could also require specific conditions in regards to your mental state. For example, you would be able to relax on your bed at home, but you'd have no way of relaxing here. Well, what do you think? Would you like to try sleeping here regardless? You're just going to let me nap in your office? Don't you have other clients coming in? I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. Then, after I proved I wasn't sleepwalking, I could try asking the real question I had in mind. I'd like to know what your real question was. The nurse from before, Hazuki-san or something, guided me over to the hospital bed located at the back of the room. As it wasn't a bed meant for sleeping, it was firm and uncomfortable. Then again, considering the sofa I usually slept on, that shouldn't pose any problems for me. I'll come to wake you up in about 3 hours from now. The nurse was pretty damn cute. As I lied on the bed, I took a quick peek at her face while being careful to avoid eye contact. Her baby face made her look kind of unreliable, and she even had this almost despondent aura about her, but she was doing her job pretty well. She felt like a heroine right out of a classic eroge, one with kinky hospital sex. Of course, that would be the kind. I'll make sure to keep a close eye on you, so please relax and have a nice rest, okay? Basically, if symptoms of sleepwalking occurred, like I started wandering around on my own, she'd make sure to take care of me. Well then, good night, even though it's not night. Little animation of the curtain. After giving a slight smile, the nurse closed the curtain and left the hospital room. Now surrounded by a pure white curtain, I took a deep breath. All around me, I could hear the voices of doctors examining patients, the sound of nurses running around, and the sound of the door to the examination room opening and closing. Do you have some ulterior motive of your own here? Yeah, I doubted I'd be able to relax here. Can I actually fall asleep like this? Well, I'll give it a bash. Figuring I had nothing to lose, I closed my eyes. Okay, we didn't have some ulterior motive. No matter what I did, my mind refused to think of anything other than the corpse that had been massacred and crucified with stakes. as well as the gory pictures Shogun had sent me. So I forcibly conjured Saratan into my head. There you go. Go to your place of sanctuary in your mind. Oh no, this couldn't possibly be a delusion. You fantasizing about your waifu for the 1000th time. Taki, you're amazing for going to the hospital, even though you hate going outside. I've been thinking this for a while now, but, you're actually super duper strong, aren't you, Taki? Yeah, you keep telling yourself that. I'm going to be interested to see how much the things deviate if we go full red and full green, but later. There's a lot of these, too. I mean, this is over 5 episodes. This is almost our 8th or 9th. Sarah animatedly moved around in my delusion. Well, I guess it's a delusion. Green. Her cute voice chirped for me. No, it's not. It's not a delusion. It's real. Anime is real. Right? Right, Taki-san? I really love how strong you are. Also, Taki, you know you don't sleepwalk, right? I watch you every day, so of course I know. I'm a gosh darn Taki expert. You can't let those 3D girls trick you. Not even the cute nurse. Besides, you've got me here, righto? Let's spend time in that container house again. Just the 2 of us and the other 40 waifus. You big dum-dum. Foo-hee-hee-hee, Saratan. You're so cute, Saratan. She really was my ideal waifu. There wasn't a single woman better than her. 3D, the fuck was that? I want to go home already. I want to go home and have Saratan welcome me back with a smile. Wait for me, okay, Saratan? I'll be coming home soon. Will you now? I feel like that's foreshadowing for not. Nishijo-san? It's time to wake up. Come on, open your eyes. Saratan softly placed her hand on my chest and just gently rustled me awake. No, not quite. Now this is kind of the thing I always dreamt of. Now you're delusional. Living together with Saratan. I'd have her wake me up every morning wearing nothing but an apron, complete with a wake-up kiss. The delusion's getting worse. Nishijo-san! It's the nurse. Don't kiss her. I slowly opened my eyes. I was half expecting it to be someone else. Someone was looking down on me from above. I accidentally made eye contact with them. It was the nurse, Mizuki-san. Whoops! I frantically looked around myself, just like before I was lying on the hospital bed. Yes, imagine that! So everything from when Saratan had started talking to me was just a dream. You ended up sleeping soundly for 3 hours. A full 3 hours, but it felt like I hadn't slept any more than 5 minutes. As I rubbed my eyes in a daze, Hazuki-san glanced at me before covering her mouth as if she couldn't hold back a smile. Snicker. Is Sarah-san your girlfriend? Protag talks in his sleep. You were muttering her name in your sleep the entire time. Please don't watch Bloodtoon. Please don't watch Bloodtoon. Even I could tell that I was going pale. I'd made one hell of a mistake. How could I have let someone hear my sleep talking? What's more, of all things I could have said, I blurted out Saratan's name. Fuck. So this is despair. I want to die. I embarrassed myself in front of the cute nurse. But ultimately, you showed no signs of sleepwalking. As she opened the curtain, Hazuki-san conveyed that to me. Well, it's possible the symptoms didn't occur today by chance, so we can't definitively say that you haven't been sleepwalking. True. No, I really don't think I'm a sleepwalker, so whatever our question was, are we going to ask her instead of the doctor? More importantly, I had to ask the doctor that really important question, but I couldn't see him anywhere. As I looked around, Hazuki-san handed me a blank form. Not really focusing all that hard, I took it from her and ran my eyes over it. It was a fill-in-the-blank style form. It's a checklist to assess your mental condition. It functions more or less like a psychological test. And the doctor said, you can go home after filling it out. Where's the doctor? I'm very sorry. He's very busy with other patients right now. He said to see how things go until next week, and to come again if there's no signs of improvement. Then again, it wasn't like he was my primary physician or anything, I suppose. He'd probably just given Hazuki-san a bunch of directions to get me out of here. Well, I guess that means there was pretty much no point to me coming to the hospital today. I really wanted to ask Dr. Takashina about the someone that wasn't me controlling me. Ah, that was what the question was. Whatever it meant, it was a really chilling symptom, so I didn't want to leave without getting an answer. You ask a question like that, you're gonna get put in the rubber room. That being said, I don't have the courage to demand Hazuki-san bring him back to see me, especially when she already looked so apologetic. Reluctantly, I decided to give the test a try. Oh, is there going to be something on there? One of those questions is going to be whose eyes are those eyes? He's just going to keep seeing it everywhere. Guess I'd write about my symptoms on the back of the sheet or something. If I did that, I should be able to get another examination scheduled for next week. The test is very simple. Each question you answer with either yes or no. It's either a red option or a green option. If the question is applicable to you, please mark the box labeled yes. It will be used as a reference, so we can personalize your treatment going forward, so please consider your answers carefully. Hazuki-san went out of her way to explain the procedure thoroughly. The test had some strange questions mixed in, ones you wouldn't normally expect to run into at a hospital. It really did seem like some sort of psychological test. Would they really be able to actually learn something from questions like these? Yes? Hazuki-san stared at me intently. She showed no signs of leaving. You can go now. But it wasn't like she had nothing else to do or anything. It was more like she was monitoring. No, watching over me or something. My nervousness of being watched made it hard for me to think clearly. But I guess she was just doing her job. Either way, I knew I ought to fill out the test quickly. Can I just go back to the lobby and do this? Get away from you? Oh, wow. That is a quiz. When you have business to take care of, you prefer to use emails over phone calls. You know what? I used to do that, but now I do the phone calls first. And if I don't get a hold of someone, I do the emails. That's what I do with new clients and leads. Your ears ring every now and then? No, you felt someone's gaze and turned around before. Uh-oh. That'll be a yes. Wait a minute, where's the yes or no? I guess it's just check or not check. You've seen objects that are supposedly stationary move for an instant. You've experienced a premonition? Yes for my boy. When looking at a digital clock in passing, you've seen the same numbers appear in sequence. You've already cried once this month. You can masturbate using only your imagination. Well, that's interesting. Visualize uninterrupted imagery. You could daydream without closing your eyes. The frontal view of a car sometimes looks like a face. You can't handle haunted houses. It's going to scroll down. Show me more. Show me more. I'm clicking. Oh! Oh, my goodness. Oh, interesting. Okay. Huh. Well then. Yeah. Look at that. How do I determine that I can scroll down. Oh my God. Look at this. You feel like yawning when other people do. That's just suggestion. That's fine. Merely the sight of sour food makes your mouth fill with saliva. What's wrong with that? Hard time making eye contact. Okay. Memory loss. Okay. Been in a dream when you know you're dreaming. What's wrong with lucid dreaming? You have dreamed in color before. You have a strong ability to sense the supernatural. You believe there is a God. Clearly, this man is delusional. You're prone to motion sickness. Personality attributed to your astrological sign matches your personality perfectly. That's just mentalism tricks. You believe that other planets inhabited by human-like creatures exist. When you start reading a book, you become so immersed that you lose track of time. These are weird questions. All right, I'm going to say no to this one for reasons I just said. I'm going to say yes for this because that is correct in the case of our pro tag. Don't know about this. I'm going to say yes for our pro tag. Don't know about this. Did our pro tag cry? I feel like our pro tag cried. I feel like our pro tag is talented at this. I'm guessing he has a lot of experience. Maybe. Who knows? We don't really know a lot about how he handles horror. Well, actually, yes, we do, because we've seen how he handles vivid imagery. Probably not this. Well, I'm sure he finishes the Rogi books pretty fast. Probably not. Probably not. Probably, considering he's a shut-in. Probably not. Probably not. Who knows? Doubtful. I'm going to say yes on this one, based on what's already happened. Clearly, I feel like yawning too. How much of an effect is this going to have? This will be curious. Okay. We're good.
はい、お疲れ様でした。
Psychologically Profiling Psy'Min Part 2. Thank you very much for your time. Hazuki-san thanked me as I answered the final question, despite the fact that I hadn't said anything. I felt pretty embarrassed at being watched the whole time. My face was probably bright red. Because of that, I avoided looking at Hazuki-san when I handed her the test. There'd be no time to write my symptoms on the back.
待合室でお待ちください。
Now then, please go wait in the waiting room. What are we waiting for?
お薬が出てますから。
We'll have your medication out to you in a few minutes. What?
薬
What's that about? Medication? They were prescribing me something. Dr. Takashina had never said anything about that.
ええ、先生の指示で。
Yes, as per the doctor's orders. It's a weak sedative. You'll be able to sleep more soundly.
副作用などもありません
And
よ
there aren't any side effects. You say that. Oh, wow. Thoughtful as ever, Dr. Takashina. And yet, when I realized I would have to wait in that lobby again, my mood was immediately spent spiraling. Come on, it's a couple of minutes. Deal with it. And you're out. By the time I'd gotten back to Shibuya, it's already evening. The hospital was technically in Shibuya Ward, but since Yoyogi was the closest station to it, commuting via train was the fastest. But the Yamanote line had been as crowded as ever, and despite only being 2 stops long, the trip back still made me incredibly tired. Riding the train any farther would have been a pain in the ass, so I decided to get off at Shibuya Station and make my way back to base from there. I like how he always calls his home his base. Even then, there were still tons of people outside the station. I despised crowds. They make my head spin. We've established this. Not wanting to stay much longer, I tried to speed walk out of the scramble crossing. But even walking straight was nigh impossible. Stumbling even slightly caused people from both behind and in front to bump into me. Once more, a bunch of people handing out pocket tissue packs blocked the way, practically forcing everyone who passed by to take them. Fed up with everything, I ignored the first person handing them out, but took some off the second because she was at least a cute grill. I was so sick and tired of these people handing out tissue packs and shit to push their products. Didn't they have anything better to do than stand right in the middle of the road? Well, whatever. It was free, so I might as well take it. Is it going to have something written on it? Inside the tissue pack I took was a red flyer, and there was a paragraph's worth of shit written on top of it with white ink. Talk about ostentatious, like holy shit, you couldn't exactly miss something with that color scheme. As I walked along, I gave it a quick skim. What's it going to be? Oh, interesting. It was a blood donation flyer. As I read it, I thought back to the form I'd filled out in the hospital. I didn't have any memory of filling out something like that 4 years ago. Maybe the way they examined patients had changed recently. Oh, that makes sense. Even then, though, something felt oddly familiar about the test. Deja vu. I'd been getting hit by it all the time recently. Having my mind and body not function the way I wanted them to. The sense of dissonance was an incredibly uncomfortable feeling. So in order to ascertain the true cause behind the deja vu, I tried flipping back through the pages of my memories. How'd that work? I thought back to when Mom had taken me to the hospital about once a week. I'd kept my mouth shut at all times and only expressed myself via nodding or shaking my head. At first, I'd been taken to a perfectly ordinary examination room, but since I showed no signs of improvement, I started going to a different room before long. The room had essentially been a counseling room, which meant it put the patient's relaxation first and foremost. Nice hard beds. In other words, there were sofas and plushies and whatnot located all throughout the room. Dr. Takashina had been taking a very patient approach to treating me, all while refusing to blame my situation on anyone. He alone caught on to how I was merely choosing not to speak, rather than having the inability to do so. Meanwhile, my mom would always talk to me in an unnaturally cheery voice. Every time I'd gone to the hospital, the doctor would always welcome me with a refreshing smile. The nurses always treated me with all the love and care they could, and I had a feeling that there had always been one more person in the room. Uh-oh. Is that the person in the black suit? Yeah, I saw them during the first scene here. Who's that on the left? Is that your mom? We got 2 nurses, the doctor, your mom, and Agent Smith back there? Right. There had been a man in a black suit, one that felt fairly out of place in a hospital. As I'd been doing my best not to speak, I never asked about him. I didn't know who the hell he was the entire time he was there. He didn't feel like a doctor, and he always stood all alone at a fair distance away from everyone else, all while gazing out the window. I had dubbed him Mr. Nozomi in my head, though that wasn't his actual name or anything.
Nozomi.
Nozomi. That was the name that was on the paper there. The man in the suit always had a badge on his chest no matter the situation. It said Nozomi at the bottom of our little quiz there. And on that badge was the word Nozomi. There we go. It looked like a logo to me, though, so it probably wasn't a name tag. Oh, I knew why it was bothering me now. That test from before also had the Nozomi logo printed on it. Yep, just like Psy'Min Sezz. I had a hunch I'd seen it somewhere before, and now I finally remembered exactly where. Ah, that was like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. Oh, thank goodness that mystery's been settled. Good thing I never have to think about it again. That aside, what was Nozomi anyway? I'm pretty sure it was the name of a business. It could be a counter-terrorist organization founded by a gorgeous female CEO named Miss Nozomi. Fui, just like a manga. I got an extra he in there. Are we going to look it up? Go back to your base and do some Googling? Or whatever the hell this universe's version of Google is that I don't remember the name of? Yeah, this thing, Delude. When I arrived at my base, I'd gone straight to look up Nozomi online. However, there were so many results that I couldn't manage to pin down anything specific. Well, let's go with a more normal theory first. That Nozomi guy could have been from the company that made the test, and he was just at the hospital in order to sell them or something. The hospital had them adopted the tests recently, and they decided to have me fill one out today. Nah, I doubted that. I'd never heard of some rando attending a patient's examination like that. So who the hell was that Mr. Nozomi guy? Memories kept pulling at my mind, but I was fed up with it at that point. Either way, the reason behind my deja vu was now clear. I decided that I'd ask Dr. Takashina about my memory issues next week, but until then I was going to stay cooped up in my room without bothering with school. You're going to skip all week? Damn. There was no way in hell I'd go to a school where people were trying to hurt me. In all honesty, I didn't really want to screw up the minimum attendance chart I'd so carefully constructed, but it wasn't worth getting myself killed over. I gave up on my Nozomi search and went to look for any interesting-looking threads on @channel. Oh, tell me Gohan Kamehameha, whatever the hell her name is. The news board was almost completely filled with new-gen threads. Group dive, man-child, crucifixion. So yeah, that's the one we were talking about. I guess we can now say it's been acknowledged. I was waiting for someone to acknowledge it. Not only did Yua acknowledge it, but clearly we're seeing it here as well. Even the ESO board had threads like, let's try and replicate new-gen crimes in ESO. Let's not do that. To be honest, I was beyond sick and tired of the whole thing. Man, I gotta play some Guild Wars 2 after this. Diving back into ESO, I found Grim. New expansion coming out soon. Ooh, high res. Oh, we're using the in-game chat now. The @channel news board is super fucking boring recently. Entertain me, Grim. They really won't shut the fuck up about new gen. Well, it really is the biggest thing of note recently. Whenever a new incident like this happens, people always freak the fuck out about it. Shitstorm incarnate, lol. Again, that's why it's not so weird that Yua was looking into it. They still haven't caught the culprit? I mean, you and I both know the police are incompetent, lol. Oh, believe me, I played the Ace Attorney games, I know. There's tons of idiots all over the web painting the culprits as some moe hot chick. That might be closer to the truth than you think. That demon girl. Have you mentioned the demon girl to Grim? Is he going to be like, wait, what the hell are you talking about? The desolate eyes of the girl I'd seen at the crucifixion murder scene flashed through my mind, and I'd felt a shiver run down my spine. As much as I didn't want to remember, that ghastly memory would come back any time I let my guard down. Wait, I'd seen the culprit's face. I knew who they were. Should I report to the police? But I didn't want to get involved. Demon Girl? Is there already an offshoot of the perp like that? That might be taking it a bit too far, to be honest. Anyway, these new gen cases are seriously interesting, dude. I've joined the Frapara new gen community. You're getting way too into this. Everyone but you and Sisen from our guild has joined. Oh god, was he serious? Now I wouldn't be able to hop on and chat with my guild anymore. Yes? I knew you were into gory stuff, Grim, but... Don't tell me you're the type that looks for artistic merit in murder cases. True, the Is there supposed to be some weird pronunciation of this? The crucifixion? I'm just going to keep calling it the crucifixion. True, the crucifixion corpse could have been easily mistaken for modern art, so it'd be fair to say that it was artistic in that sense. Yeah, the first two were not. Nah, the only thing you should be seeking here is how lewd it is. It's like the universe, just like the ultimate form of BDSM. You sickos. You're going to get me banned off YouTube. This guy's hopeless. I better do something quick. You'll get it once you leave behind your virginhood, Neidhart Tan. You lowly bastard. Are you saying you're not a virgin? Look at these faces. You damn traitors. Back on topic, though. The site pulling all the info together is filled to the brim, so you really ought to take a look. Again, it's only 3 incidents, guys. I really didn't want to look. I was too scared to. I wanted to escape the reality in which I'd witnessed the scene of the crime. That's why I've been intently avoiding all information related to New Gen ever since then. I wanted to fool myself into believing that the gruesome scene I'd seen had been just a delusion. But, hey, I'm the guy that picks the delusions, okay? The delusions are what I say they are. I was basically a god in ESO. Not just someone strong, but someone who knew all. Not to mention I was the guild leader. It'd be beyond embarrassing if the organizer of the group couldn't keep up with the latest topics. I had to make sure that didn't happen. I guess I gotta join your stupid group. I'll click the link to the site Grim had sent me. The top of the site had the title All Things New Gen written in big letters right in the center of the page. Was this the site that Yua was on? This type of website was basically like a wiki. It was open to the public and anyone could enter info related to a particular topic. In the case of this New Gen site, loads of people entering info concerning New Gen and the site updated as they did. Sites like it tended to suffer from unreliable info being mixed in, as well as its fair share of vandalism from trolls, but they could still be pretty useful for getting a quick overview of an incident. Many links were pasted all over the page. I promptly clicked on the link that read Current Timeline. My heart raced. Just reading the site was making me nervous. My palms were slick with sweat. The first incident, dubbed the Group Dive, bit tasteless, was the suicide of 5 high schoolers that had jumped to their death. Oh, they were high schoolers. All right. Earthquake from 2 months ago, brutal bizarre sex murders, corpse affixed to a concrete wall, hammers, crimes, crucifixion, man-child. Man-child. The victim was a 56-year-old university professor. It had happened in the dead of night on September 7th, which was about a month ago at this point. That was the group dive? Yeah. The building they'd jumped off of was Cornelius Tower, which was located in Shibuya. They dove off the rooftop helipad. Of course, all 5 had died instantly. Okay, so it wasn't our building, like we were curious about last episode. According to the autopsies, the 5 all had foreign pieces of flesh under their fingernails, along with various scratch marks on their hands. Based on that, it was surmised that the 5 had been holding hands as they jumped for one reason or another. There was no suicide note of any form on the rooftop. A person online, one of those people acting like Snake, had actually gone to Cornelius Tower themselves and reported that the door to the roof had a sign on it saying no entry to unauthorized personnel, and that it was practically locked 24/7, so how'd they get up there? Naturally, the door had been locked at the time of the incident, and the key was not found among the belongings of the deceased. Essentially, the rooftop helipad had effectively been a locked room, and the method the 5 had used to enter was completely unknown. There was a very high chance that someone other than the 5 had been present at the scene of the incident. Dun dun dun. The second incident, dubbed the man-child murder case, had occurred 12 days after the first incident, placing it on September 19th. Early in the morning, a university student on their way home from a karaoke session had discovered a collapsed man covered in blood by the Shibuya Station underpass. The victim had been a university student residing in Shibuya Ward, a 21-year-old... Oh, hey, Konoe. A 21-year-old named Konoe Chizuo. Wasn't Konoe the name of that, like the last name of that little girl that we saw in the interlude last episode? The victim had been a university student, a 21-year-old named Konoe Chizuo. He was already dead when he was discovered, but his abdomen had an unnatural, very large swelling. According to the autopsy, someone had performed an abdominal incision on the man, stuffed a newly born fetus. Okay, so when they say fetus, they mean bigger than I was thinking. Inside the man's stomach. A newly born fetus, so a baby, and then stitched it back up. Moreover, a DNA test confirmed that the fetus had no blood relation to the victim. The victim was a bachelor and had no relations with any women. It was only online speculation, but it was assumed that the 32-week-old fetus had been removed from its mother's body via C-section. However, the mother's identity, current whereabouts, and even whether or not she was alive was completely unknown. It was possible that the police had already discovered her whereabouts, but if they had, nothing had been publicly revealed. Yeah, I agree. I averted my eyes from the water to keep myself from throwing up. So they said 32-week-old fetus, right? That would put it at about, it would be like less than 8 months, so a bit premature. Whoever it was, I averted my eyes from the monitor to keep myself from throwing up. Jesus Christ! Talk about nauseating. The culprit was completely insane, and maybe, just maybe, these ghastly murders had been carried out by that girl. She wasn't real keen on running either, was she? She just murdered a guy and then spent like an hour stringing him up. 0 fucks given about being caught, am I right? Japan is over. I stared at Serotan in an attempt to bleach my eyes. Someone get the brain bleach. And with that, I somehow managed to stabilize my mental state. I considered taking the meds the doctor had given me, but Serotan did the job nonetheless. Anyway, while that might have been necessary to maintain Neidhart's honor, reading all that gory stuff really fucking sucked. Yep. Bad things. Whoa, hey! Full on Sprite. If it's so hard, then you don't have to read it, you silly goose. Though if you're a super masochist, then I won't stop you, Taki. Wouldn't you know you're the Taki expert? I just can't bear to see my Taki go through so much pain. So why don't you just stop? You can just stick to the fun things in life. You can just fap to me like you always do, silly. Put a damn bra on, woman. Oh, how wonderful and caring you are, Serotan. I was right about those answers on that quiz, wasn't I? Serotan was the only one who would stay by my side. I couldn't ask for a better waifu. Good Lord. I rested my chin on my hands above the table, watching Serotan smile as I took deep breaths. Ah, my soul had been healed. I might be able to get through a little more if I kept glancing at her as I read, and so I decided to put that into practice right away. That's going to turn out to be a horrible idea. Calling that. Come to think of it, why had those two unrelated cases both been slapped with the new gen label? Yeah, this was what I was asking. Apparently the group dive had initially been treated as a group suicide, but after the man-child incident had occurred, people online reinvestigated it and discovered the unnatural circumstances surrounding the scene of the crime. Rumors then began to appear, saying that the 5 may have actually been killed and that the suicide label was merely a cover-up. According to the parents and good friends of the 5 victims, there was no way it could have been suicide. Then the mass media had started making connections between the two incidents, starting with where they occurred, Shibuya. Madness explodes in today's youth. The new generation madness. Sensationalist headlines like that had started popping up everywhere, to my understanding anyway. Then came the third case, the murder case I'd witnessed, dubbed the Crucifixion. The site didn't have as much info on this case, likely due to it having only occurred recently. The victim, 56-year-old Ota Hisashi, was a university professor who had been crucified with stakes to the concrete wall of a vacant house. That was all that had been publicly revealed. Many of the neighboring residents had claimed that for over an hour after the time the crime was thought to have occurred, around 8 p.m., they could hear the sounds of nails being hammered into something. She was there for an hour doing that? Good God. Even I'd heard the sound. I could hear it even now. A horrible, terrifying sound. On a related note, no connection between the third case and the group dive or the man-child had been discovered yet. Other than it was just freaky as shit. But with it being the third abnormal incident to happen in quick succession in Shibuya, the crucifixion was naturally treated as another new-gen incident. Watch one of these be unrelated to the others. The police and mass media believed that all the crimes had different culprits, but the predominant opinion online, or rather what most of the net hoped was going on, was that the crimes either shared a single culprit or an organized group of culprits. There also were many occult-based theories whispered about online, such as that everything had begun with the earthquake from 2 months ago. 2 months ago, an earthquake with a seismic intensity of 3 occurred, with Shibuya at its epicenter. Doesn't Japan have earthquakes, kind of on the regular? Although the scale was fairly minor, there were still 8 fatalities, which became a popular topic of discussion. Come to think of it, it was true that the new-gen cases had begun after that earthquake. Because of that, the new-gen occultists argued that the 8 deaths in the earthquake should be counted as the first new-gen incident, causing a dispute between them and the new-gen mainstreamers. Yeah, I don't know about that. Regardless, the entire situation was abnormal. After all, despite the fact that 3 brutal cases had occurred in quick succession, no clues on any of their culprits had been found. Maybe if someone investigated the noises coming out of the alleyway for a goddamn hour in the middle of the night, maybe you would have found something. And maybe many online were waiting eagerly for a 4th case. Okay. Bit morbid. If I wasn't directly connected to it all, I probably would have joined in on the chaos myself. Posted in a few threads, made a few theories. I could have been waiting excitedly for the 4th incident at this very moment. Damn it, all these assholes were just having the time of their lives, weren't they?
犯人を早く捕まえてくれよ。
Please just catch the culprit already. One of these days, someone's going to be behind you, I swear. A week had passed since the crucifixion, but neither the demon girl nor the police had made any moves. If they knew I'd been at the scene of the crime, they would definitely come and question me about it, but there hadn't been any signs of that actually happening. So why did Yua investigate us, and how did she get on our case, and why isn't she telling anybody, and what's her deal? Thank God! It looks like I wasn't going to get dragged into this after all.
あなたには予知能力がありますか?
Aside from the woman who's dragging you into it, do you have precognitive powers? That claim Yua had thrusted at me flashed into my mind. You gonna remember the bus? Well, right here is an unaccountable digital picture that can only be explained by precognitive powers. That's why I had to ask. Even though I'd finally started to relax, that feeling of despair came flying right back in an instant. The image sent by Shogun, the data was still on my PC. Yua's claims were no more than delusions she dreamed up. Her deductions were a total stretch, not to mention logically bankrupt. Yeah, but those timestamps don't match up, my guy. While I might have ended up not asking about it in the hospital today, the idea of me doing things without remembering them was completely absurd, utterly impossible. Oh, my poor sweet summer child. Let the hypnotist talk to you about how much people remember very little and constantly forget things that they've done. You have no idea. I mean, nothing like that had ever happened to me before, that you remember. So the gory image was obviously faked. Doesn't explain... Oh. In that case, doesn't explain how they knew it was going to happen, though. Hey, Sarah. You should find proof that it's fake. So let's give the picture a little look-see. But it's so disgusting. I really don't want to look at it any more than I already have. If you destroy that bimbo's argument, Taki, you'll be able to go back to your peaceful life, don't you know? And if you do that, there'll be nothing to fear no longer. So you know what you gotta do? Of course. The voices in my head were exactly right. You had talked to me as if I was the culprit behind the crucifixion, but that wasn't true at all. I mean, I'd seen the culprit's face, and if I let you put the blame on me after that... So, with a gulp, I double-clicked on the folder where the images were cached. Images plural? You clicked on one. Oh god! Okay. Oh, and you know what? I think we're going to leave that for the next episode. Because we've been going on for a bit. I want to see what the follow-up to that is. Because I imagine we're going to get into it right after whatever this interlude is with Ban Yasuji, whoever the hell that is. But you're going to have to wait for that next episode to find out what we discover. I have a feeling what we discover will be counterproductive. What we discover will actually be evidence that Yua was correct. But what will that evidence be? Will there be details in the picture? Will we see our own reflection in some reflective surface or something? Who knows? But I guess we'll find out then, so I hope to see you then. I hope you look forward to it. We are going interesting places here. Last episode was the big finale to Chapter 1, I guess, so we are now firmly in Chapter 2. And let's see where we end up. Take care. I will see you guys next time. Have a great week. I know you will. Make sure you're following on the Twitter and the YouTube and all that good stuff if you're not subscribed, so you know what the hell is going on. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.